Station, this is Houston. Are you ready for the event?
I'm ready for the event. Looking forward to talking with everybody.
Houston ACR, this is Mission Control Houston. Please call station for a voice check.
Station, this is Houston ACR. How do you hear me?
I hear you loud and clear. How me?
I got you loud and clear. Please stand by for opening remarks.
Hi, my name is Adrian.
Hello, I am Scott Voyko, the proud principal of Lake County's largest K-8 school, Aurelia M Academy, home of the Trailblazers.
And I am Claudia Botero, one of the science teachers here at ACA.
And we are honored to welcome you to the NASA Downlink, where our Aurelia Academy Trailblazers and our friends at South Lake High School get to ask questions to the astronauts aboard the International Space Station.
We hope this experience inspires students from all backgrounds to see that careers in STEM are within reach. And now, here's our first question.
Hi, my name is Adrian, and my question is, if it's always dark in space, how do you know it's wake-up time or bedtime?
Thanks for the question, Adrian. So on the space station, we use the same time zone as Europe, so Greenwich Mean Time. And so what that means is we'll just set our alarms and turn on our lights, even though it might be light outside or might be dark outside. We actually have 16 sunsets and sunrises every day, but we don't have windows everywhere on the space station. So sometimes when we wake up, it's dark outside. Sometimes it's light outside. And so we just go by our clocks.
Hi, my name is Tobias, and my question is, do astronauts have a special toolbox and what's inside?
That's a great question. So a lot of what we do up here on the space station is fixing things and doing science experiments, and those require a lot of different tools. We actually do have a really big toolbox, but it's a pretty normal toolbox. It has a lot of the same wrenches and screwdrivers and things that we have on Earth. The special thing about it is that because we're in microgravity and everything floats, we have lots of little special slots to stick things in so that they don't float away on us. When we go outside the space station on a spacewalk or extravehicular activity, sometimes called an EVA, we have very special tools that we'll use that we can use in our spacesuits, and we need that because when you're in the gloves of the spacesuit, your fingers aren't really nimble because you have these big, thick gloves on, and so you need these kind of bigger tools to help you work with the bolts and things outside the space station. So we have lots of specialized tools for that.
Hi, my name is Eliza, and my question for you is, what safety features are built into your suit to protect you from radiation or in case it gets damaged?
That's a really great question, Eliza. So we have a couple of different things that are built into our suits to help keep us safe. So the spacesuits that we go outside in and take on spacewalks, they have to first and foremost, they got to keep all of the air pressure in so that we have air to breathe. And so they have a really thick layer of polyurethane that is used to it kind of inflates almost like a balloon. And on top of that, we have layers of something called multi-layer insulation. And so these are sort of layers of fabric and temperature insulating materials, because when you're in the sun outside, it's actually pretty hot, a couple hundred degrees Fahrenheit. And when you're in the dark, it's actually really, really cold. And so we need to be protected from the heat changes when we go from sun to shade. And so those are the types of insulation and different sort of layers that are built up into our spacesuit. So even though those spacesuits look kind of big and puffy, they actually have really thick fabric to protect us and to keep us safe.
Hi, my name's Emmett, and my question is, how do you eat food in space? Is it all frozen?
Thanks for the question, Emmett. That's a really great question. So a lot of the food we eat on the space station is a lot of like food that you might take if you go on a camping trip or something like that outside. So we actually don't have any frozen food because we don't actually have a freezer for food on the space station. Instead, a lot of our food comes in cans or in little pouches or is freeze-dried or dehydrated. So what that means is to eat it, we'll actually have to take that little food packet and plug it into our water dispenser and put hot water on it, and it'll go from being dried up to kind of being like normal food. And then we have a little food warmer oven. It's a tiny little oven, almost the size of like a toaster almost. So it's not very big, but we can slide our food packets in there and it heats it up, not super hot, but pretty warm, so it's tasty. We actually have really, really good food here. We have a really nice variety. There's a whole laboratory of food scientists at the Johnson Space Center that make us really nice and interesting meals to keep it interesting up here.
Hi, my name is Jace, and my question is, what is the hardest thing to do in space that people on Earth would think is easy?
That's a really great question. So one of the things that's the hardest for me in space is to keep track of things. So when you're in space, things just float everywhere. So if you're trying to, say, put things into a bag and keep it organized, it's really hard because things just will float out and float away. So, you're trying to put a bunch of little pieces down and together and keep them organized, and it's impossible in space. What we do here is we have a lot of Velcro, like on our pants, where we can stick things to try to keep things from floating away, or Velcro or tape on all of our surfaces to stick things down. But I've lost, this is a water drink bag, and I've had, times where I put this down in front of me and then go do some work, and then it's floated away, and it takes me days to find it.
Hi, my name is Emma, and my question is, how does the work of earlier astronauts influence the way you think about your mission today?
That's a really great question. I mean, in spaceflight, we often like to think that we're making giant leaps towards the future, but really those giant leaps are made by a lot of incremental steps along the way. And so, we just had this really fantastic mission where 4 of my friends went out and flew around the moon for the first time in a long time. And, that mission seems like a giant leap, but all of our missions up until that point have been steps helping us to get there. And so, what I think about is, I think about the astronauts that really pioneered spaceflight, and we're really standing on their shoulders and making the next set of steps to get us even further and further out into the solar system. So I feel really honored and privileged to be a small part in helping push us further and further out into our exploration of the universe.
Hello, my name is Alex. My question is, how does astronauts from different countries communicate with each other on the space station?
That's a really great question, because this is the International Space Station, and we have a whole bunch of different countries that have all come together to help make this space station work. And all of these countries, people will speak different languages. English is one of the main languages we use on space station. But, for instance, right up here right now, we have an astronaut from France, and we also have some astronauts from Russia up here. So I actually had to learn how to speak Russian for part of my preparation for the mission. And other astronauts will have to learn different languages so that we can all communicate together. But, it's one of those things that would surprise you, but foreign language training is an important part of being an astronaut, because we have to be able to talk with each other, both up here, but also with the ground control centers around the world.
Hi, my name's Sophia, and this is my question. What factors might change the trajectory of the space station?
That's a really great question. So the space station is orbiting 250 miles above the Earth, going about 17,500 miles an hour. And we change that orbit occasionally, because even that high up, there's still a very little bit of atmosphere that will slow us down eventually. And if we slow down, then we would fall out of orbit and come back to Earth, and we don't want that. So every few months, we will actually do a little bit of an engine burn to boost the space station a little bit higher to counteract the fact that we slow down just teensy tiny bit every orbit. The other thing that causes us to change our position or how we orbit is if there might be some space junk in the way. We have a whole ground team that's looking out there using radar and other means to track objects that are in Earth's orbit. And if any of these are going to get close to the space station, they let us know, and we calculate an engine burn to move the space station a tiny bit so that we stay safe and don't have any risk of hitting anything.
Hi, my name is Jameer, and my question is, Is there a particular experiment or daily habit that helped you create a sense of normalcy while you float so far away?
That's a great question. It's really important to feel like things are normal, even though this is a pretty unusual place to be. There's a couple things for me that help create a sense of normalcy or help create a sense of routine. I think every morning having a little bit of breakfast and having a cup of coffee and catching up on the news of the day type of the thing is helpful for me to feel like I'm back at home. One thing that's part of my routine that I actually really enjoy doing that for me doesn't create a sense of normalcy is every evening I try to take a little bit of time. We have a module on the space station called the cupola that has windows basically on a whole half of it and lets us look out and see the entire Earth below us. And every evening I try to go and spend at least 5 or 10 minutes just sitting in the cupola, not doing anything but looking out at the Earth. And for me, that helps me maintain a sense of wonder and joy about being up here because we're busy, we're doing a lot of work, and every day it can feel like we're just working. But taking the time to stare out the window, look at the beauty of our home planet, and think about that, it really helps me appreciate what a special opportunity this is and how and it really makes me want to share that with everybody.
Hi, my name is Melody, and my question is, how do you navigate the International Space Station to avoid obstacles?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So, as I was saying before, there are all these little bits of space junk or other satellites that might sometimes get close to us. And when that happens, it's called a conjunction. It's when our two orbits kind of cross. And so by using the engines on some of the spaceships that are attached to the space station, we can actually change where we're going. And if we can figure out when there's an obstacle ahead, and especially if we have a lot of time before, we can make just a very small change in our speed, like less than just a tiny meter or two a second of speed change, which is not very much, but that can actually make us miss the obstacle by many miles.
Hello, my name is Molly, and my question is, who determines the experiments you perform on station, and is it based on a current problem on Earth or curiosity?
That's a great question, Molly. So one of the coolest things that we get to do up here on the space station is science experiments. And what we're actually doing, so the International Space Station is actually a national lab. And so the science experiments that we do up here are things that come from scientists all across the country and all across the world. And they come up with great ideas and submit proposals for research that they want to do up here. And then they work to develop with our ground teams to develop these experiments and to send them up. And so the experiments that we're doing are usually designed by scientists on the ground, and we're helping them. We're kind of helping them to carry out their experiments. But because we're in space, we get to do that. And so I'm a scientist by background. I'm a physicist. But I have done up here all sorts of different biology experiments, some chemistry experiments on the human body, and things like growing plants. All things that are different because there are scientists on the ground that came up with really good ideas that we can help figure out and help them answer questions about.
My name is Kimberly, and my question is, do astronauts use cold welding, and if so, when and how often?
Oh, that's a really great question. So cold welding is definitely something that can happen in outer space and in the vacuum of space. And that can happen when you have metals that are in space without any oxygen, and they can actually stick to each other really hard. That's something that sometimes in satellites we really want to avoid happening by accident when we don't want it to happen. On the space station, we don't actually do welding all that much of any sort. There have been a couple experiments where people have looked at welding. I think maybe 2 or 3 times that people have experimented with welding up in space. But one thing we do have that we have been doing some experiments with recently, which is kind of like that, is actually 3D printing. When we further exploration, going back to the moon and onto Mars, we're not necessarily going to have all those specialized tools in our toolbox that we might need when something breaks. And so being able to use things like 3D printing to build tools, which is kind of like welding, we can actually prepare ourselves for further exploration into the solar system.
Hi, my name is Carrie, and my question is, what is the most important message for humanity to understand about space?
That's a really important question. I really appreciate you asking it. I think that space exploration, to me, it really represents our desire to explore and to understand and to go beyond what we know. And I think the thing that space exploration has shown us is that when we do this together, when we all work together, all of us, both in our country and internationally, we can do incredible things like build the space station up here. And I think that there is a lot that we have to strive for in terms of exploration. It's so exciting to think that we could be going back to the moon and even be going on further, and that the way to do that is together.
Hi, my name is Violeta, and my question is, if you meet your 15-year-old self, what will you tell them about being on the space station?
Oh, that's a great question. So I wanted to be an astronaut ever since I was a little kid. But I think by the time I was about 10 or 11, I said, that's not a real job that I can do. There aren't really many astronauts, and it's so hard to be an astronaut that there's no way I'll do that. But I kept dreaming about that. And so I think what I would tell my 15-year-old self is that to keep dreaming and to keep following your passions, right? I decided that I didn't think I could become an astronaut, that it'd be too hard, but I still kept that dream alive, and that helped me to do really well. It inspired me to keep doing really well at school, to try new things that I might not think I could do, but that goal and desire of wanting to be an astronaut helped me overcome some of my fears and to try things that were actually really fun and that I could do that I didn't necessarily think about. And so, being up here on the space station, it's so many new experiences and so many new things. And I think what I would tell my 15-year-old self is that to not be afraid to try new things and to do things that you don't think you can do, because you might end up doing them one day.
Hi, my name is Olivia, and my question is, what is your greatest achievement as an astronaut?
Oh, that's a hard question, because to me, I think the biggest achievement is that coming up here, it's not about my achievement, it's about the achievement of all of our teams. I feel very lucky to be up in space, but the success of the mission and the science that we're doing, it relies on a huge team on the ground. So I think my greatest achievement has been to hopefully not let down any of the huge number of people that have worked to help get our International Space Station together and get everything working, and all the science that we've got going up here. I think my biggest achievement is being a good member of our team.
Hello, I'm Diane Cornegie, Superintendent of Lake County Schools. I am incredibly proud of our students at both Aurelia M Academy and South Lake High School and the opportunity they've had to connect with astronauts aboard the International Space Station. Experiences like this inspire curiosity and show students that a future in STEM is within reach. To the Expedition 74 crew and the Johnson Space Center Downlink team, thank you for your time, your work, and for inspiring the next generation.
It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you, and I really appreciate all the questions. Thank you guys so much.
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the event.
Thank you to all participants. Station, we are now resuming operational audio communications.